surgery, at least the place I went, you could watch somebody get it done, and it goes against all of your natural fight or flight instinct to just lay there and let
And
this
open your
laser
eyes.
and like open your eye. And literally, they use a scalpel first. Like
Wait,
they make little small incisions, and you can
how
see
long
the
does it
blade.
take?
Oh, it's fast. It's like 5 minutes an eyeball, and then you're done.
What?
Yeah, and then you go home. Your eyes start to really, really itch. Like before you get the surgery, they give you a Xanax, and then or something like that. I think it's a Xanax. And then you're kind of just like, yeah, whatever, you're feeling good. And then you lay down, they give you these drops so your eyes don't feel anything. And then they give you another Xanax to take, and they say your eyes are going to start feeling really, really bad. So you should take this and just go to sleep. And they're not kidding. You walk out and you can actually see. Like literally, you get up from the chair and you blink a couple times, and you're like, holy shit, I can see. And then you go, and then like I sat in the car, and then like, oh my god, I feel like my eyes are on fire. So I took the pill then and there. And then like by the time I got to my house, I laid down in my bed and I was out for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I could see. It
And
was a
that was it.
miracle.
It's
And
over.
that was it. And then yeah, and now I got that when I was 21, so
I gotta
about
do that.
6 years
I'm
ago.
scared. I'm scared. I'm scared.
It's cool. You just go to a good doctor. I'll tell you. I'll give you the information for the doctor I went to. He's great. He did
That's
my whole
good.
family.
Good for you. All right, G, let's do this. Let's run through them.
Cool. Let's. There's some really interesting ones this week. I mean, every week we have some, but this one here from the Washington
Isn't it crazy how
Post.
much pops off in the world in 1 week?
It's overwhelming, honestly. I mean, we've talked about this before about not being able to specialize in everything, but kind of try to just like see patterns and things like that. But it's true. It's like, damn, it's you got to keep up with everything.
You
So
know what
the
I would suggest? Like,
mm,
the way I frame it in my own mind is you're studying humans.
yeah,
You're studying humans and how they organize themselves, how they resolve conflict, how they build, how they destroy, how they propagate. Like you really fundamentally you're studying humans and you're just studying humans in different contexts, right?
mm,
And the more I think that framework that framework for me is very helpful because then I start I mean, you've traveled the world, like when you go to this place, you're going to meet a dude that's exactly like the dude that you met 3 countries ago. That's exact like these
mm,
patterns recur. So,
yeah,
all right. So here we go. Josh Rogan. Josh Rogan, of course, is one of the, if not the premier foreign policy journalists. I've been in many meetings at the State Department where people are worried about what Josh Rogan is about to write.
ooh, fascinating. Yeah, how COVID hastened the decline and fall of the U.S.-China relationship. It's written. I just love like the structure,
Mm,
the illustrations here. I don't know who the artist is, but great, and it's broken into like the four parts
yeah.
that makes it read like a damn story. I sent this to my parents because I want them to be more involved in like current events, and I figured like this one is like a pretty like it kind of
Yeah,
feeds
it's a
you.
story. He's telling
It's
a
a good,
story.
yeah, very good.
Yeah, he's telling a story. It's really important, the value, and really that's why I included this article, the value of journalism, the value of fact finding, the value of being in a society where people are free to talk to the media, the value of being able to use an undisclosed source without you being tortured by the police to give up that source in order for that source to be held accountable. Like the ability to unpack what's actually happening, it depends in toto on the freedom that exists for a society to investigate. So like when somebody says big media, I don't trust the media, I don't, you're fine, that's a conspiratorial level of thinking. Like what you really want to understand is who's telling me this story, what are the sources that are being used, what is the purpose of the story that I'm reading. And when it's like an essay form like this, it allows for you to be in a world different than your own. So it's good. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Next up, we have an ad
Mm, ads are good.
from Jersey Mike's, and then we have from CNN first independent report into Xinjiang genocide allegations claims evidence of Beijing's intent to destroy Uyghur people.
Good. China's policy of transforming hundreds of thousands of Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities in Xinjiang to new jobs often far from home, is leading to a thinning out of their populations. The government denies that it is attempting to to alter the demographics of its far western region. But our evidence suggests that alongside the re education camps, the policy involves a high risk of coercion and similarly designed to assimilate minorities by changing their lifestyle and thinking. Good. So, this is a study that has been released that gives us more detail into the concentration camps that the Chinese government is running for Uyghurs. Good.
Yeah, trying to target Uyghurs to exterminate them in whole or in part. In part, I think is where we could kind of find some evidence as far as the video that we watched for the last episode of our podcast that showed that women were being sterilized, having forced abortions, and that children are being relocated from their families. So yeah, there's serious evidence, and
Good. Yeah, and obviously that what you just used in whole or in part is the definition from the definition of genocide, and
mm,
it is not required that you attempt to distinguish between the two.
mm,
Any attempt at eradicating a people, even if it's incomplete, even if it's a subdivision of those people, can serve to fulfill the elements of genocide. Good, bro. I'm loving this.
we're rolling, we're rolling with the BBC. If the others go, I'll go. Inside China's scheme to transfer Uyghurs into work.
Oh, that's the one that I just talked about. Did I miss one?
Let me see here.
Or did you read the same one twice? I might have.
No, no. So there was one
My bad.
that has a that we just discussed this morning, and that one is like an independent report by these
New Lines
New Line,
magazine.
yeah, New Line,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the one that I was just referencing.
Oh, okay. My bad. My bad. It wasn't in the. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Good. So the New Lines is the investigation that we're talking about. The BBC one is the one where like we're only talking about work camps. We're only talking
Hmm.
about the idea that like I can play a genocide off as job creation. Good. Okay, the New Lines magazine, I know those dudes. They're not all guys, but I know them, and what we'll try to do is bring them on within the next week to
Sweet.
talk about it because it's a brand new thing. They asked me to write for it. We'll bring them on. Karim Shaheen, we'll bring him on.
Kareem Shaheen.
All right, cool. Okay, my
Sounds
bad, my bad
awesome.
on. Okay, so that's those two. Good. So
All good.
now,
Now we move towards the Microsoft hack. This one's also from the BBC. Microsoft hack. White House warns of active threat of email attack. The US is expressing growing concern over a hack on Microsoft's Exchange email software that the tech company has blamed on China. There are estimations that 20,000 to 30,000 organizations have been compromised, including local governments, academic institutions,
good.
law firms, infectious disease researchers.
Good. Remember that when we talk about disinformation, we're talking about the use of ideas and words in order to influence populations. That is distinct from cyber. Cyber means the pipes of the internet, the pipes of society, the water pipes, the electrical grid, the national security apparatuses that exist, right? Cyber. Okay. In the world of cyber, we of course have a cyber command. We have many different places within the US government where we deal with cyber. But in the world of cyber warfare, China, Iran, North Korea, Israel, these are the countries that are very, very strong in their ability to engage in cyber warfare. In fact, one of my classes last week read about. No, it wasn't. It was in one of. Oh, it was in the Kimball. No, it was in the Masha Gessen book where they were talking about the hack of Finland and how Finland is very advanced technologically, but still it realized that it has a significant vulnerability to hackers.
Mm-hmm.
So Really important to remember two worlds here. Disinformation is the world of ideas. Cyber is the pipes of society, which includes much of what's happening on the internet, the banking system. So, like, for example, a lot of people will go from the National Security Council at the White House, right? And they'll go be like the head of security at Wells Fargo in at the headquarters in New York or whatever, right? That world of protecting infrastructure from cyber attacks, cyber hacks is a very important world for us to keep in mind.
From the New York Times, far
Doom,
right
doom, doom,
groups
doom,
are
doom,
splintering in wake of the Capitol
doom,
riot.
doom, doom, doom,
The
doom, doom, doom.
breakdown of larger organizations sets out the stage for small groups or lone offenders who are more difficult to track.
Good. Remember, we said all of this is about raging against the machine. When you rage against the machine, you do it in groups, unless you're some sort of a lone wolf type person, and that doesn't really get you very far because you're alone. When you're raging against the machine, a series of decisions have to be made, decisions about ethics, decisions about tactics, decisions about whatever. The best example of that in our courses is the disagreement between ISIS, what became ISIS, Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, and Al Qaeda. And the disagreement was that ISIS, or ISIS in the Arabian Peninsula, which later became, sorry, Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula under the leadership of Abu Musab al Zarqawi, which later on became ISIS, was engaging in attacks, killing Muslims who did not agree with their ideas, primarily Shias. And Al Qaeda was like, no, you can't do that. You can't go around bombing Muslims and bombing mosques just because they're Shia and you're Sunni. Good. So that's where a splinter begins to arise. Once that splinter arises, what happens? People flock to the different teams that exist. They're like, yo, those people are sellouts. I'm going to roll with these dudes, or those people are, what they're doing is inappropriate. I'm going to roll with these. Okay, good. Same thing happens domestically. So you might be a part of some group, and that group fell for the QAnon conspiracy. And then among that group, some people gave up on QAnon and some people continue with QAnon. The people that continue with QAnon, there are people that are about guns and people that are not about guns. There are people that are about pedophilia and that's all they care about, etc. As they splinter, those splinters will create conflicts among them. And generally, that's good for law enforcement. Generally, that it's harder to track more groups, but
Mm,
more groups means more conflict, which means more froth rises above the top, and you can begin to identify very quickly who the players are.
that makes sense. I get what Neil, the writer of the article here, is kind of getting at as far as like lone wolves can be extremely dangerous because like what was the Unabomber's name? Ted Kaczynski or something like
Mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm,
When
mhm.
they could be totally cut off and then, and just become totally extreme and wild and stuff like that. I actually took a class at UCLA some years ago on lone wolf terrorism. Really, really good. I wish I had the book with me. I'll
Mm,
try to include the link for
mm.
anybody who's interested. That's also a really interesting aspect of domestic terrorism. This lone wolf terrorism.
And of course, shout out to my brother Neil McFarquhar, who I met in my MPAC days. We have a love of Egypt together. He wrote an amazing novel. It's called In the Sands of, I don't know where it is right now, but it's here somewhere. And then that brother went to San Francisco for a minute, and then he went to Russia. He was the bureau chief in Moscow for a minute. Neil McFarquhar, amazing human being, dude. Like very kind, brilliant, thoughtful, awesome. Good.
All right. All right. From the Washington Post. Why Germany is becoming a go to destination for trials on the world's crimes.
Excellent. Remember when we talk about attempting to bring resolution at the back end of mass violence, at the back end of situations where there has been a breach of international law, we have a series of options. One option is temporary courts, another option is permanent international courts or tribunals. A third option is universal jurisdiction within the legal systems of nation states. Universal jurisdiction within the legal systems of nation states. That, of course, is dependent upon the appetite of that nation state to engage in these issues. And this article is an excellent explanation of why Germany is one of the primary destinations for nation state based justice on the back of situations of mass violence. Good.
Dig it, dig it. Okay, now we're going to the two videos that we have for this week. One comes from Vice. It's titled "The Taliban's Message to President Biden." Very interesting. 2 minute quick video.
You got to be in it. You got to get in it. You can't be an expert in anything unless you understand. How do they sit? What do they smoke? What do they eat? How do they talk? Like, is it like a woman shows up and they chop her head off, or are they what? Get yourself into the milieu of reality outside of your small circle of reality.
Yeah, what the main quote that stuck out to me was that this man that they were interviewing, he said, "We succeed by just being at war." So like, just that just kind of shows who we're up against. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So,
yeah,
but really really interesting, even visually striking, really
yeah.
cool piece of
That's
journalism here.
awesome.
And then
Awesome.
the next one we have is how a 74-year-old grandmother has become an icon of resistance in Belarus.
I think, honestly, we just forget. We just forget. Like, it actually connects to the conversation we were having when we started. We forget that we're talking about humans.
Mm,
Well, you forget you're talking about people that could be your cousin, your uncle, your aunt, your grandma. This is real, man. Like, this is real lived life, and we often dismiss our superhero capabilities. We often dismiss our capacity to change reality. We often dismiss the intergenerational nature of raging against the machine ethically. And this story is just bomb. It's just a dope story. Takes you right there. Again, another situation. Look, I know I sound ridiculous, dog, but this didn't exist when I was a kid. There was no YouTube. You couldn't see.
mm,
Like, you could not see what does it look like in a cave where people are getting ready to blow up the World Trade Center. I want to see that inside there so I can begin to understand what, you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
So for me, like, this is next level. Like, you can see it. You can see it with your own eyes, as opposed to like reading words on a text and imagining what it is, because that also reduces your like proclivity to stereotype, proclivity to
Hmm.
simplify, proclivity to.
Yeah, we have more information like this. We get closer and closer to being like omniscient. We can kind of know what's going on. And after we've seen these pieces of information, we can kind of build narratives better, that like to tell ourselves that even if we were to go back to just like text-based media, now we kind of know that what certain things kind of look like. There's different textures than just um, just different ways of receiving information, and it's really cool. Like just YouTube and stuff like that is cool because there's like an art to it now too, and there's like the kind of like we were saying with the way the first article from the Washington Post was brought up, like it's a story, and then
Mm,
the Vice News one, like they lay it out in such a cool way.
mm.
But yeah, man, so much information.
It's a
uh
blessing, man. It's an absolute blessing, dog. Like, I know that sometimes it's overwhelming, but like, I live for this. I live for this kind of input, like to see and hear and explore and understand. And um it's a lot of fun. And I'm glad we get to do it together.
Hell yeah, me
All
too,
right, big
man, me too.
time. So what do we do? What where we, oh, 20 minutes, dude. This is like
That's it.
professional level shit right here.
Yeah, getting better.